I ran a 50-mile ultramarathon at 17. In this video, I'm going to be breaking down how I did it, some of the training and whatnot that went into it, and just an overview or overall overview of the training and the actual race itself while I make chicken. So, the first thing I wanted to talk about was how this whole thing started. A couple months ago, my brother came to me with an idea. He said, why don't we run an ultramarathon? And both of us, having not really done any running ever, were like, that's a good idea. Why not? And so, we went out for a run that night. I have done some running in the past. Not a whole lot, but a little bit. Nothing really over 5 or 10 miles. So with that said, we went out for a run that night. My brother had never done any running. Well, at least not for multiple years. We both work out and whatnot. We both go to the gym a whole lot. But neither of us really did any running at all. And so we both went out that night and went for a run. And we ran 2 miles at a 9-minute pace. That night we got back to our house and made a dumb little training plan that would just get us up to the mileage that we needed to be at by the time we needed to be there. And I'll put a picture of it up on the screen. It was not very thought out and it had no actual science or anything behind it. We just kind of threw numbers together and did math to make sure we had the amount correct. We had 3 months to train at this point. We stuck to it pretty much the entire time until a little while in when we realized that we didn't actually need to run as far as we had been in training up to that point. The overall training in general went really, really well. It wasn't fun in any sense, but it wasn't too terrible, if that makes sense. The only thing that was really missing was our cardiovascular health, because we're generally really healthy exercise people, and so it wasn't too terrible, but it definitely was something a lot different than what we were used to at that point. What is this seasoning? Nah, I don't want that. I think it was either my first 30-mile run or 36-mile run. I chafed profusely. It was terrible. From then on, I started changing my clothes every 20 miles on runs after that. I would say if you are trying to train for something this crazy as fast as we did, I would recommend paying someone and paying an expert to make sure your training is on point and you're not just gonna give yourself kidney failure or something like that. But survival of the fittest. So if you die, womp womp. The day before the race, we went to our hotel. We had an Airbnb booked, or Airbnb/hotel, I think more of a hotel. We had about a 4-hour drive to Damascus, which is where the race was. And so we got in around, I think it was 5 or 6 that evening. Went and got food, which there's another thing. If you're doing a race like this, a bunch of people recommend that you don't eat anything that you're not used to eating a couple days before the race, just to make sure you don't get sick or anything. We did not follow that advice. I think I got fish, like some fried catfish or something. And then my brother, I forget what he got, but it wasn't great race food or pre-race food. If I were to do it again, I would have my meal planned out for the couple days leading up to the race, just to make sure that everything there is not gonna upset my stomach or possibly hurt my overall performance. After eating, we went out to a local grocery store just to get a bunch of stuff because we weren't actually sure what the aid stations were going to have. We had asked the race director a bunch of different stuff, but forgot to ask him about what food was actually going to be at the race. And so we went out and got all the stuff that we thought we might need. We had gels that we brought with us, and then we got a bunch of Gatorade and snacks and whatnot just to play it on the safe side. When we got back to our hotel, we sorted out all of the different stuff we got and made sure we had it all packed nicely and in little bags and whatnot, just to make sure everything was lined up and we wouldn't have to do anything the morning of the race. And then tried to get to bed pretty much, which did not work well at all. We slept absolutely terribly that night and got maybe, I don't even know, it was like 6 or 7 hours of very interrupted sleep. And then the day of the race, we got there. We got to the start line at 6:30 because the race started at 7. From there, we asked the people running everything there what there was going to be as far as food and how far apart the aid stations were and stuff. And we made the decision to not take any of our own food just because the aid station stuff was going to be perfectly fine. The race itself went really, really well. We started at 7 and started off at a really good pace. We weren't trying to get ahead of the crowd or anything. We were running pretty slowly, like 10 to 12 minute miles for a good portion of the start. And then once we got into the hills and whatnot, into the mountains, we slowed it down a little bit. And then going downhill, obviously we ran everything. But our plan overall was walking uphill every single time, no matter how steep it was, just walk uphill. And then anything flat or downhill, we were gonna run. And we stuck to that pretty much perfectly the entire time. At mile 12, we were hiking uphill with one other guy. We didn't know the guy, we had just been hiking with him and talking with him a bit. He was in the front. He starts screaming and saying there's bees. And so me and my brother take off. We're running. Luckily, me and him only got stung once, and that was completely it. We were fine. I think we're good now. Camera was overheating. At mile 29, we realized our GPSs were completely off, and we had to pretty much stay right at the pace we were at in order to finish on time. It was gonna definitely need to stay how it had been and just get into the aid stations and get out as fast as possible. We did pick it up a little bit. I think our last 20 miles were slightly faster. Not a whole lot, but just a little bit. And we ended up finishing with a time of 11 hours and 41 minutes. When we finished the race, there was an extra prize for whoever could do the most push-ups within 5 minutes of finishing the race.
Good run?
Yeah.
I won't do the push-up. You don't have to, I'm just asking. What are they? Push-ups, pull-ups, and sit-ups. All of them? Or just, can we choose one? Don't do the sit-ups. I got sick after doing the sit-ups. How many push-ups?
And so me and my brother both tried to do that. And I got 50, and my brother got 65, I think it was. The record was set at like 1:20, and so we weren't anywhere close, but it was just another fun little thing at the end to make it more miserable. So, yeah, we drove home that night. We felt kind of sick, but it wasn't terrible. And the next day, I felt pretty much completely fine. Nothing hurt really. My hamstrings were a little bit sore, but that was it. Other than that, that was pretty much the entire race in a nutshell, and I made some fantastic chicken.